This is the digital channel of the General Overseas Service of All India Radio. I'm Manoj Mainkar, and in the next half hour, I'll bring to you news updates from India and around the world, awareness videos on coronavirus by Government of India, and a lot more. We'll begin with the news updates.
This is the General Overseas Service of All India Radio. Namaskar. The news snippets. Read by Maria Albina Michael. 952,743 patients have recovered from COVID-19 in India. In the last 24 hours, 35,175 people have recovered. 528,082 tests were conducted for COVID-19 in the past 24 hours in the country. Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh have conducted the most number of tests. Prime Minister Narendra Modi said efforts are on to increase testing up to 10 lakh per day. Prime Minister inaugurated 3 high-volume throughput labs at Noida, Kolkata and Mumbai through video conferencing. He said these labs would be expanded for testing of hepatitis B and C, dengue and HIV. Finance Minister Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman has said that government would go ahead with the disinvestment of 23 public sector units which have already been cleared by the Union Cabinet. The Finance Minister said all sectors of the Indian economy are now open to the private sector. Pakistan violated ceasefire in Degwar and Kasbah sectors in Poonch district of Jammu and Kashmir. India strongly responded to the ceasefire violation. Indian Air Force helicopters have been deployed to airdrop food packets and relief material in several districts in Bihar. 24 lakh people have been affected. Darbhanga is the worst affected district. COVID-19 is the worst global health emergency ever, says WHO. Meanwhile, China, the epicenter of coronavirus pandemic, reported surge in new cases in newer areas. The US National Security Advisor, Robert O'Brien, has tested positive for COVID-19. The Taliban have asked all private companies and NGOs working in Afghanistan to register with the group. Taliban has alleged some companies and NGOs are working against Afghanistan. Bolivia's President Jeanine Áñez has returned to work after recovering from coronavirus. And that is the end of the news snippets.
Fabric masks are intended for use in community or public settings where there are COVID-19 cases and where physical distancing cannot be maintained, places such as grocery stores or on public transport. You do not have to wear these if you are not around other people, like if you're driving in your car alone. To be clear, fabric masks are not personal protective equipment, and they are not recommended for use by health workers in healthcare settings, nor for vulnerable populations such as people who are 60 or over, or those with underlying medical conditions. Those individuals should be wearing medical masks. Fabric masks are intended for source control. So imagine you are the source, and the mask is there to protect those around you. Fabric masks act as a barrier between the mouth and nose and the surrounding environment. We still don't know how much protective value fabric masks have for the wearer. That's why, when you wear a mask, you're protecting others, and when others wear the mask, they're protecting you. So remember, the mask should be used as part of a comprehensive package of other infection control measures such as physical distancing, hand hygiene, and respiratory etiquette. Before touching any mask, make sure you perform hand hygiene with either an alcohol-based hand rub or water and soap. For more information on how to wear the mask correctly, please check out our other videos. The study that evaluated the effectiveness of various types of materials used to make masks Identify that the fabric mask should ideally have 3 layers: an outer layer, an inner layer, and a middle layer, which can be an insert or can be another fabric layer. The inner layer, which comes in direct contact with your face, should be a hydrophilic material, meaning it will easily absorb droplets from your exhaled breath. An example of this material is a cotton. It is important to select a light color such as white, which can help determine when it is soiled or wet. A good place to find this is in a woven or knit cotton t-shirt or material from a store. The middle layer should go into a pocket between the inner and the outer layer like this and should act as a filter. It should ideally be composed of a hydrophobic material. This should ideally be a strip of polypropylene fabric, which is a spun-bound, non-woven fabric material. The outermost layer should be a hydrophobic material. This means that the fabric will repel droplets and moisture. This can be made of a synthetic material such as a polyester or a polyester and cotton blend. This can be found again in a clothing item that is a knit pattern. So look around your household for items made of these materials and wash them before using them to make a mask. Although these 3 are the recommended layers to provide optimal filtration and breathability, there are other types of materials that could also be used and are mentioned in our guidance document. The importance of materials when you design a fabric mask is to ensure that it is both effective at containing droplets and it allows you to breathe easily. The fibers of the fabric must also be a balance between not too loose, which would allow the travel of droplets through the material, and not too tight, which can restrict the ability to breathe. You may choose to sew your own mask at home. There are a couple of designs mentioned in our guidance, and you can choose one for you that is easiest to make. Since these masks are intended for reuse, we recommend washing them daily after a day's use. Also, keep in mind, if you're using a middle layer as an insert for the filter, make sure you remove it before laundering it and insert a new filter when you are using a clean mask. Otherwise, you can choose to make a 3-layer mask without a removable middle layer. So find material that can withstand the highest possible temperature when washing. Ideally, you should be washing the fabric masks in warm or hot water of about 60 degrees Celsius with soap or laundry detergent. The materials should ideally be able to withstand boiling water. This means that a fabric coating such as a wax or elastic stretchy material would not be suitable. It is important not to use disinfectants to clean the mask, as these are harmful chemicals and can be inhaled since you would have the mask closely touching your mouth. However, in instances where it is not possible to launder the mask in hot water or detergent, a fabric mask can be soaked with 0.1% chlorine for 1 minute and then thoroughly rinsed with room temperature water afterwards. When selecting your materials, you should find or purchase a non-porous container or sealable plastic bag to store your fabric mask when it is not in use and to contain the mask after it has been used and until it can be washed. We recommend either a disposable plastic bag that is discarded after use or a plastic container that can be wiped with 70 to 90% alcohol and left for a minute to dry. Anyone using a reusable mask of any kind must be aware that there are some risks involved in the prolonged use of a mask. Whenever the mask becomes soiled or wet, you need to carefully remove it and either dispose of it or put it in a container to be washed, followed by hand hygiene. When the layers of a mask become visibly worn out or the mask remains stained or soiled after washing, throw it out. A fabric mask should not be shared between different people. And when masks are continuously used throughout the day, you should have multiple masks to change whenever the mask becomes wet or soiled. We hope that with this material guidance, we might inspire you to design fabric masks using WHO's recommended materials. So stay safe and help prevent the spread of COVID-19.
This is the General Overseas Service of All India Radio. We now bring you a special film-based program from our archives.
Cinema over the decades and all over the world has attracted to people from all walks of life and professions. There were doctors, painters, policemen, the rich and the very poor, engineers and farmers, just to name a few. In 1929, Birendranath Sarkar had returned from England after having completed a course in civil engineering. His father, a successful member of Calcutta's elite and a member of the Viceroy's Council, wanted his son to start a firm of civil contractors for the government. B.N. Sarkar created a construction company and began to accept contracts for civil works. One of the early assignments that came to him was to supervise the construction of a new cinema hall in town. As the construction of the building progressed, Sarkar came to interact with the promoters of the project and they in turn informed him of the business of film exhibition. Birendranath became interested in the business of film exhibition and he decided to construct his own theatre to screen films. In December 1930, he even got Subhash Chandra Bose, the nationalist leader, to declare open his first venture, Chitra Theatre, later renamed as Mitro. Bose had suggested that Birendranath should make films for the Bengali audiences, and so Birendranath opened a film production company named the International Film Craft to make films for the Bengali audience. This film company could make only 3 silent films. Already in Calcutta, an American film, The Jazz Singer, was proving to be a sensation because it was the first film with integrated sound technology. B.N. Sarkar, being a man of science, was immediately attracted to the new innovation and he sought the latest equipment from USA to be installed in his newly constructed theatre. Then he heard that in faraway Bombay, a Parsi filmmaker by the name of Ardashir Irani was furiously at work to make films in sound. And Sarkar decided promptly to join this race for his Bengali language cinema. Another filmmaker, Kalipada Das, also joined this race in Calcutta. Irani, however, won the race with Alamara by 11 days, while Kalipada Das came second with Jamai Babu, and Birendranath Sarkar's own venture, Dena Pauna, became the third film to be released in Calcutta. The commercial release of the film Dena Pauna for public screening is important for our consideration. It was the first film produced in the still under construction new theatre studio located in Taliganj, a dream project of B.N. Sarkar. The film Dena Pauna as a film was a moderate success, but its production and commercial release throughout United Bengal and Assam areas gave B.N. Sarkar valuable education in the business of cinema, and Sarkar decided he would chart his own way. He took a long tour of England and USA, visiting the various studios to see how the whole business of cinema was being conducted. On his return, he adopted the American system of film production and studio management. He decided to recruit the best technicians of the country for his new theatre studios. In 2 years' time, he had managed to create a stable of the top artists of the country who would be associated with most of the landmark films of the decade between 1933 and 1943. Sarkar very early in his business laid out a set of guidelines not only for himself but also for all those who were to be associated with him in his film production. To himself he kept inside that he would not have any politics in his relation with his business compatriots. In business practices ensured he would not invest in big epic productions which may promise high returns but were risky on investment. He laid down that his films would provide wholesome entertainment which underlined social messaging. He looked forward to the dramatic rendering of works of well-known men of letters, especially from the world of Bengali literature. And finally, he felt his business territory would be the whole of the subcontinent. That would be a vast empire to cover. No one had earlier stated that his films would be distributed in the whole of the landmass of the Dominion of India. B.N. Sarkar kept his promise. Even if the film had a Bengali cultural base, yet they were to be seen on screens in distant parts of the country. The new theatre's logo of an elephant with a raised trunk found not only on the films made by the parent company, the trademark was also on Gramophone Company, which was created to press recordings of songs of films made by new theatres. Sarkar decided that he would not stick to making films in his mother tongue of Bengali language. Starting with Bengali films, Sarkar branched out rather early into Hindi films production, then moved on into the Punjabi and finally even Tamil films. Some Punjabi film historians refer to him as the father of Punjabi cinema, a title he hardly deserved, though he promoted the production of some Punjabi films with funds and technical hands. It was the same case for Tamil films. He sent his cameraman Bimal Roy to Chennai to shoot regional films and guided their business spread. B.N. Sarkar was lucky to get an early break in film production. In the year 1932, when New Theatres produced 6 films, namely Josh-e-Mohabbat, Mohabbat Ke Aansu, Subah Ka Sitara, Zinda Lash, Natir Pujo and Chandidas, 2 of these films, Chandidas and Zinda Lash, made good money for the producer. Film Chandidas, which was originally made in Bengali, was repeated with Hindi dialogues in 1934, again to triumphant results at the box office. Its film director was Devaki Bose. Bose went on to make Sita, which was sent to the Venice Film Festival, where it received a certificate of merit, the first international recognition for any Indian film. New Theatre and Devaki Bose both benefited from such accolade. Sarkar now added one more guideline to his business, namely, give to the film director the budget demanded for his production. He also fished for good talent among film directors. First, he caught up with Dhiren Ganguly, who had struggled to make some good social films, but lacking in production discipline, his film company had failed. Dhiren found both solace and funds for his dream projects under the wings of New Theatres. Similar was the case with Pramotesh Chandra Borua, Prince of Gauriganj. Borua had wandered around Assam and within Calcutta, attempting to find an anchor to make films, but until he accepted the leadership of B.N. Sarkar, Borua could not make an impression. In the year 1933, Pramotesh Chandra Borua was asked by Sarkar to make Devdas. Borua made this film first in Bengali. He directed and acted in the main role and then remade the film in its Hindi version, only directing the drama, and got a young man from Punjab, Kundan Lal Sehgal, to portray the lead role. Sehgal was a new voice and an unknown face. Both the film versions were released in 1935 to sensational success. Devdas immortalized Sehgal, Borua, New Theatres and the defeatist character of Devdas. B.N. Sarkar now sent his New Theatre team to Chennai in 1935 to remake the film in its Tamil version. The cameraman was the same for the 3 versions, namely Bimal Rai. Years later, Bimal Rai was to direct another Hindi version of Devdas with Dilip Kumar in the main lead. Incidentally, till date, the character of Devdas has been interpreted 16 times in various language films. It seems to be an essential condition for achieving film immortality for an Indian film artist to play this role once in his lifetime. B.N. Sarkar introduced into cinema personalities who later themselves created new roads in film craft. They were Pramotesh Chandra Borua, Bimal Rai, Devaki Bose, Leela Desai, Phoni Majumdar, Timir Boron, Nitin Bose, K.L. Sehgal, Pankaj Mallik, Shishir Kumar Bhaduri, the actress Jamuna, D.K. Ganguly, just to name a few. B.N. Sarkar not only introduced in Bengali cinema the best film production equipment, also brought in innovations which changed the future of filmmaking. New Theatres was the first to use artificial daylight in filmmaking. The first playback singing was introduced in a New Theatre film. The technique then migrated into Hindi and other regional language cinemas. New Theatres was the first to recognize the need for having welfare organizations for film workers. For long periods, he was the president of the Bengal Motion Picture Producers Association and the president of the Film Federation of India. He also remained in the National Advisory Committee of the Film Institute of India and the National Film Archives at Pune, and was also a founding member of the Children's Film Society. One fact which has been overlooked by most is that the film products from New Theatres in the largest number have found their way into the vaults of all the major national libraries and film archives in the world. There is one irony here. India does not have any print of Borua's Devdas. The one surviving print is in the possession of the National Film Archives of Bangladesh, and they want a good price to exchange a copy. B.N. Sarkar was bestowed with the Padma Shri, and later in 1971 the Padma Bhushan was conferred upon him for his contribution to Indian cinema. He was selected for the Dadasaheb Phalke Award in the year earlier in 1970 to become the second recipient of this honour, a case of smaller government award following a bigger distinction. But then such is life sometimes. B.N. Sarkar died in Kolkata in 1981, aged 80 years. greatly mourned by the world of Indian cinema. Even today, the collection of 151 feature films in 4 languages and dozens of short films are testimony to this great son from Bengal who let his work speak and influence the audiences in what is today Sri Lanka, Myanmar, India, Bangladesh, Nepal, and Pakistan.
You were listening to a special film-based program from our archives. This program came to you from the General Overseas Service of All India Radio. You are with us on the General Overseas Service of All India Radio.
We now bring you today's commentary, China's Obduracy on Disengagement along LAC. It is scripted by Dr. Roop Narayan Das, Strategic Analyst on Chinese Affairs, and read by Kaushik Rai. After the latest round of protracted diplomatic and military parleys between India and China over disengagement on the line of actual control LAC in the aftermath of the Galwan Valley clash that resulted in loss of lives on both sides, complete disengagement has been achieved at patrolling point 14, 15 and 17A in eastern Ladakh. The nearly 3-hour-long virtual confabulations were held under the aegis of the Working Mechanism for Consultation and Coordination WMCC on Border Affairs. However, disengagement is yet to be implemented in the Finger area along the Pangong Tso Lake from Finger 5 to Finger 8. India has already made its stand on the situation clear. The Indian Ministry of External Affairs had said, "We have also made it clear that India is fully committed to observing and respecting the LAC with China and that we will not accept any unilateral attempts to change the status quo along the LAC." Meanwhile, a statement from the Ministry of External Affairs said both sides had agreed that another meeting of the Corps commanders may be held soon so as to work out further steps to ensure expeditiously complete disengagement and de-escalation. The Ministry of External Affairs statement said the two sides agreed that early and complete disengagement of the troops along the line of actual control and de-escalation from India-China border areas in accordance with the bilateral protocols and full restoration of peace and tranquility was essential for smooth and overall relationship of the bilateral ties. It further added the two sides noted that this was in accordance with the agreement reached between the two special representatives during their telephonic conversation on the 5th of July 2020. They agreed in this regard that it was for both sides to sincerely implement the understanding reached between the senior commanders in their meetings till date. On the other hand, media quoted Chinese sources as claiming that positive progress made by the frontline border defense forces of the two countries to disengage and ease the situation on the ground. In yet another development having a bearing on India-China relations, India has made it clear that business with China will not be same as before. While India seeks to resolve these problems through dialogue, New Delhi has made it clear that it will not do business with China as usual until there is a complete disengagement of military forces along the LAC and de-escalation in the border areas in accordance with agreements and protocols. It may be noted that Prime Minister Narendra Modi had earlier said that in an era of development, the era of expansion has come to an end. Significantly, India does not believe in trade war with any country. However, the ban on some Chinese apps is a measure to ensure India's digital security. It is only in the interest of the two countries and their peoples that the status quo ante in the line of actual control is restored soon. At a time when there is an international backlash against China, it would be prudent on the part of China to heal the wounds and repair the bilateral relations between the two countries and their peoples for mutual benefit. It is a fact of life that India and China are neighbors, and it is always wise to live in peace rather than in perpetual anxiety and tension. This year, when the two countries are observing the 70th anniversary of the establishment of their diplomatic relations, restoration of peace and tranquility in the India-China border will be a huge step in the desired direction. It is hoped that the persistent security dilemma prevailing on the LAC is resolved at the next round of Corps Commanders meeting, likely to take place very soon. That was today's commentary. China's obduracy and disengagement along line of actual control. It was scripted by Dr. Roop Narayan Das, strategic analyst on Chinese affairs, and read by Kaushik Rai.
This commentary came to you from the General Overseas Service of All India Radio.
This broadcast came to you from the digital channel of the General Overseas Service of All India Radio.